Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Syahira Asra binti Inum, which is the first presenter for this presentation. So I'm hoping that all of my classmates and my lecturer, which is Prof. Dr. Nur Ain, are having a nice day every day and doing well. So for this presentation, I'm going to talk about the Islamic world in the era of Western domination, 1800 to the present. Right, so this is my group member. I have Nur Arifah Munirah binti Azhar, Nur Hanana binti Muhammad Yusuf, and Nurul Hanis binti Ahmad. Right, so for the first of my presentation, I'm going to talk about the introductions of my topic, which is in 1800, Muslim countries at all over the world are facing a serious internet crisis, which is hard to handle in addition with the hard pressures given by the Western. Rapid developments in Europe make the Christian world in rival with Muslim country, and things going very worse as more and more Muslim became incorporated into the empires acquired by European powers and the implications of the spin-off Western imperialism modernization. Western get to reap the most benefits as Muslims also respond towards the technology advance. Right, so for the second slide, the European takeover. The urgent message of Islamic reform was intensified after 1798. After that, Muslim independence steadily crumbled as region after region fell under European control. By the time First World War, most of the Muslim world has come under varying type of and degree of European colonial control. The intervention of the British in 1882 prevented it from securing complete independence and in theory restored Ottoman authority. In reality, Egypt fell under British control, and although it didn't become an official protectorate until 1914, it displayed most of the features associated with such an arrangement. By the First World War, the world of North Africa was under some form of European control, France having conquered Algeria between 1830 and 1890, transformed Tunisia into a protectorate in 1881 and occupied Morocco in 1912. And in 1912, Italy began its conquest of Libya. And by the second decade of the 20th century, the Ottoman Empire was reduced to Arab Asia, Anatolia, and some Aegean island, and its European remains lost in the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913. Alright, so for the Muslim world during European expansion, apart from all the physical confrontations, another religious practical besides jihad, Muslim rules stress the importance of the Quran and Hadith. European expansion caused and turned Muslim world upside down. There are also signs that comes from the inside party in Islam itself. In 18th and 19th centuries, the religious organization reformed and revived back, for example, ulama and Saf. Then, main lessons of the reforms was the importance of action, which is the Muslim cannot wait the change to happen, for example, like jihad. These kinds of reforms faced some struggle in order to survive during European expansion. And for the emergence of Muslim nation-states, much of the sharp Western orientation which Ataturk wished to give the Turkish people. The evidence is the founder of modern Turkey arrived in Istanbul from Ankara to take up his summer residence at the Domination Palace. Sorry for my English. He and his encouraged have adopted a strict Western formality. The uniforms of the military are modeled on Western lines, while the women go unveiled. Nasser acknowledged the acclaim of his people as he drove through Port Said in June 1956. The son of a postal clerk, he rose through the army, and in 1949 he helped to found the Free Officers Movement, which led the Egyptian in Egypt. In 1956, he nationalized the Suez Canal Company, crowning a series of anti-imperialist actions which were to make him an Arab leader as well as an Egyptian one. Okay, so I'm going to elaborate about the emergence of Muslim nation states. The issue of transition to independence was complicated in Palestine by Jewish immigration. Britain increasingly saw its role as arbitrator between the Arab and Jewish communities. Arab protests succeeded in persuading the British in 1936 to put a ceiling on Jewish immigration. Next, the Algerian War of Independence from 1954 to 1962 was the most bitter and bloody of all those involved in the decolonisation of the Muslim world. It is not surprising that it gave birth to France's furnace, the wretch of the earth. An analysis of the role of violence in affecting historical change, which became most influential handbook for those who seeking revolutionary changes in 1960s and 1970s. And the situation was exacerbated in early 1957 when important oil fields were discovered in southern Algeria. There was increased incentive to hold on to the land. And here in July 1957, French paratroopers freed citizens of the raid on Algiers.
My name is Nohanania and I will continue about the emergence of Muslim nation state. In July 1951, Dr. Muqtasid, the Iran Prime Minister, appealed for a vote confidence in the Iran Parliament in a debate on the nationalization of the Anglo Iran Oil Company. To raise the resources to fund Iran modernization in early 1951, the Shah tried to force a quick and profitable renegotiation of the Anglo Iran oil concession through Parliament. This issue became one of Iran independence and the power of the Shah. Parliament responded by nationalizing the oil industry on 20 March 1952. Muqtasid, who has a reputation for integrity, became a prime minister in May with a brief to put Parliament nationalization policy into operation. The emergence of Muslim nation state. The Shah returned from abroad and aligned Iran to the West even more firmly than before. The onward march of the modern secular state appeared relentless, spilling over into neighboring Afghanistan, which became during the 1960s a constitutional monarchy. King Zahir Shah, following the example of the earlier Afghan ruler Aman Allah Khan, now introduced development program incorporating administrative, educational and social change, but the impact of the reform remained limited while offending conservative and religious opinion. Within a year, popular protests had forced Pakistan leader to change leg, the precise role which Islam should play in public life has since been major feature political discourse. The emergence of Muslim nation state, Sukarno, leader of the Indonesian nationalist movement the from 1920 and the president of the country from 1950 to 1966, addresses the Indonesian Party's convention in Jakarta under a massive picture of himself. Indonesia has by far the largest population of Muslim organization, has been involved in act of violence. For instance, the slaughter of tens of thousands of communities after the coup of 1965 or terrorist activities in the late 1970s. Islam in Indonesia is renowned for its moderation and tolerant attitude. Islam is defined as a belief that Islam should guide social and political as well as personal life. In 1980, heightened Muslim consequences and social dislocation brought by an oil boom encouraged a fundamentalist state of Muslim revivalists in the powerful northern province, which called for the introduction of the Sharia. The level fundamentalist, however, is not applied only to Islam, nor it is a particularly new one. It has also been attached to both radical and conservative schools of thought and often applied inaccurately to anything Muslim, which challenge what the West assumed to be processes. Central to it is a notion of activists creating a new religion political order while preserving orthodox religious observance. It therefore appeals for reinterpretation of the sources of doctrine rather than the reassertion of traditional value. The pressing need to confront idea and the dramatic change which have taken place in many Muslim societies have encouraged some Muslims to demand the establishment of an Islamic system. A Nizam has again a materially based system of Western capitalism and socialism. The Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Muslim Brotherhood, the leading Islamist force in the Middle East, was founded in Egypt in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna, 1906 until 1949, as a new soul in the heart of the nation. It disagrees with traditional orthodoxy about modernization, which it either accepted or rejected, but reinterpret to fit an Islamic model. Al-Banna believed in the necessity of government rule based on Sharia law implemented gradually by persuasion and of eliminating all imperialist influence in the Muslim world. At the end of 1948, the Egyptian government dissolved the Brotherhood for its involvement in the murder of the Prime Minister Nur Rashid Pasha, and shortly afterward, Banna himself was assassinated. Election in 1948 and 1987 demonstrate its political influence. Islam has become a chief source of opposition to the regime as militant accelerate attack directly on the government and more indirectly against the symbol often tourists of the West. It was in Iran that the secular Western mood was broken most spectacularly in revolution of 1978 and 1979 appearance to sum up Muslim rejection of Western style modernization. The identification between the state and Islamism in post-revolution Iran also mean that Iran come to be regarded as the prime mover in the Islamist network that form an element of the politic of Muslim everywhere, and this is spite of serious Sunni sectarian differences. The Iran Revolution was a hybrid incorporating secular left-wing opposition to the Shah regime as well as the Shiite cleric whose religious teaching determine the nature of the new Iran state. One persistent critic of the Shah secularizing policy was Ayatollah Khomeini, 1902 until 1989, who had long rejected the critical stand of many of his fellow ulama by condemning the Pahlavi regime in colorful terms. All the idiotic words that have proceeded from the brain of the illiterate soldier, Reza Shah, are rotten. Islam as a contemporary world presence. The 2 centuries since 1800 has marked an important break with earlier time for the Muslim world. The vast empire, so characteristic of it before this period, disappear from the map. Muslims who are formerly had ruled so many non-Muslims more often than not instead found themselves being ruled by non-believers. For some, Islam and political life were inexorably intertwined. For others, their citizens, or perhaps only some of them, just happened to the Muslim, and the state tried to maintain a neutrality on the question of religions. Hereditary monarch, theocracy, dictatorship, military rule, radical revolution, the Islamic world has experienced it all since 1800. Indeed, Muslims now very often represent one element in a rich mosaic of different people living side by side. Thanks to decolonization and migration patterns since the Second World War, Europe now possesses a much bigger Muslim population community. Thank you for all of my classmates for hearing our presentation. That's all from us. Thank you.